The holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across Admiral Helena Reyes's weathered face as she studied the tactical readout. Her dark eyes narrowed at the spreading red markers representing colony distress signals, each one another human settlement under attack. In the 6 decades since humanity had joined the Galactic Assembly, they'd never seen an assault of this magnitude. "Status update on the Centauri Defense Fleet," she demanded, her voice cutting through the tense atmosphere of Earth Command's underground war room. Colonel James Martinez shook his head, his expression grim. "Complete communication blackout, Admiral. Last transmission indicated their shields were ineffective against the enemy's weaponry. Whatever these aliens are using, it's like nothing we've encountered before." Reyes fought back a wave of frustration. Humanity's most advanced ships, equipped with technology approved and provided by their allies in the Assembly, were being swatted aside like insects. 20 years of standardizing their fleet to match galactic conventions, and for what? To be left defenseless when it mattered most. "Ma'am," a young lieutenant called out, her voice trembling slightly. New contacts detected at the edge of the Sol system. Energy signatures matched the hostile fleet. The Admiral's jaw clenched. They were running out of options. Her gaze drifted to the old photograph on her desk, a relic from her early days in the service. It showed a massive ship, all hard angles and thick armor plate, so different from the sleek vessels that made up the modern fleet. An idea began to form in her mind, dangerous and desperate in equal measure. "Get me a secure line to the President," she ordered. Authorization Omega-7 Delta. The war room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The nuclear option. Literally, in this case. Minutes later, the holographic display flickered, and President Chen's face appeared, lines of worry etched deep around his eyes. "Admiral Reyes, your message said it was urgent." "Mr. President, I'm requesting authorization to implement Operation Sleeping Giant." The President's eyes widened slightly. "That program was mothballed decades ago. The Assembly explicitly required us to decommission those ships. With all due respect, sir, the Assembly isn't here to help us now. Our modern fleet is being decimated because we relied too heavily on standardized technology. But the old fleet," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "the enemy won't be prepared for what those ships can do. Those vessels are relics, Admiral. Nuclear pulse drives, magnetic acceleration weapons, armor instead of shields. They're primitive by today's standards." "Exactly, sir. And that's precisely why they might work. The enemy's weapons are calibrated for shield frequencies, not thick armor plate. Their targeting systems are designed to track quantum signatures, not good old-fashioned radar returns. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The President was silent for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. Finally, he nodded. "Do it." "But Helena." He leaned closer to the camera. "If this fails, Earth will be defenseless. If we don't try, sir, we're already dead." She straightened, squaring her shoulders, initiating Operation Sleeping Giant. As the transmission ended, Rice turned to her staff. "Send the wake-up call. All stations, all bunkers. It's time to bring the ghosts back to life." Deep beneath the lunar surface, in abandoned mines and hidden caverns across the solar system, ancient systems began to power up. Massive doors that hadn't moved in decades slowly ground open, revealing rows upon rows of ships that had been waiting in darkness. They were ugly by modern standards. Brutal, utilitarian vessels built when humanity still believed they might have to fight their way to the stars. The TNS Thunderchild, TNS Majestic, TNS Defiant. Names that hadn't been spoken aloud in a generation. Ships that had been officially decommissioned, but secretly maintained by a skeleton crew of engineers who believed that one day humanity might need weapons that didn't depend on advanced technology. In a sealed bunker on Mars, Captain Diana Chen, no relation to the President, stared at her activation orders in disbelief. She'd spent the last 5 years babysitting what most considered museum pieces, running maintenance cycles on ships that would never fly again. Now suddenly, those same ships represented humanity's last hope. "All hands, battle stations," she announced, her voice echoing through the cavernous underground dock. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Around her, lights flickered to life on the bridge of the TNS Thunderchild. The massive dreadnought, nearly twice the size of modern counterparts, hummed as reactors that had sat idle for decades began their startup sequence. Thick armor plates that would have been considered absurdly heavy by modern standards gleamed dully under emergency lighting. "Engineering reports all systems nominal," her XO reported, surprise evident in his voice. "These old girls were built to last." "That they were, Michael." Diana ran her hand along the tactical console, feeling the solid construction beneath her fingers. "No holographic interfaces here. Just hardened physical controls designed to work even under intense electromagnetic interference. Begin reactor startup sequence. Let's show these aliens what humanity can do with some good old-fashioned engineering." As the night shift became day across Earth's military installations, more and more officers received their emergency recalls. Veterans who had served on the old fleet were pulled from retirement, their expertise suddenly crucial once again. Younger officers and crews, trained on automated systems and energy shields, would have to learn quickly how to operate technology that demanded more from its users, but asked nothing from distant stars. In her war room, Admiral Reyes watched as green lights began appearing on her display, each one representing another ship reporting ready status. The fleet that time forgot was awakening, and with it, humanity's chances for survival grew stronger. "Sir," Colonel Martinez called out, "first wave reports ready for launch, awaiting your command." Reyes took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to do would change the course of human history, one way or another. "Send the order. Operation Sleeping Giant is go. Let's remind the galaxy why they asked us to get rid of these ships in the first place." As her orders reached across the solar system, massive doors began to open. Ships that had rested in darkness for decades rose on pillars of nuclear fire, their hulls scarred and weathered, but their weapons primed and ready. They were humanity's past, brought forward to secure humanity's future. The Ghost Fleet was awake, and the galaxy was about to learn why some weapons never truly become obsolete. Captain Diana Chen stood in the cavernous main hangar of the TNS Thunderchild, watching as her crew scrambled to prepare the massive warship for combat. The sound of boots on metal decking echoed through the space as veterans and fresh recruits worked side by side, bringing systems online that hadn't seen active use in decades. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez approached, tablet in hand. "Engineering reports the main reactor is at 80% capacity. They're saying these old nuclear pulse drives are actually performing above specified parameters." Diana allowed herself a small smile. "Of course they are. These ships weren't built with planned obsolescence in mind. They were built to last forever." A loud clang followed by cursing drew their attention. A young ensign was rubbing his head after colliding with a low-hanging pipe. "Sorry, Captain. These corridors are so different from modern ships." "Different, yes," Diana called back. "But every pipe, every conduit serves a purpose. No fancy holographic displays, no quantum computing cores, just solid engineering and redundant systems." She turned to address the gathered crew, her voice carrying across the hangar. "I know many of you are skeptical. You've trained on ships with AI assistants and energy shields. These vessels are different. They demand more from their crews, but they give more in return." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Bridge to Captain Chen. We're receiving new tactical data from Earth Command. The alien fleet has breached the outer defense line. They'll reach Mars within 6 hours." Diana's expression hardened. "Acknowledge. Tell engineering to push that reactor to full power. We launch in 30 minutes. As she made her way to the bridge, Diana passed through corridors lined with thick power conduits and manual control stations. Unlike modern vessels with their streamlined interfaces, the Thunderchild required constant human oversight. Every system had a backup, and every backup had a manual override. The bridge itself was a stark contrast to contemporary command centers. No floating holographic displays or neural interfaces, just hardened screens and physical controls designed to function even under intense electromagnetic interference. Status report, Diana ordered as she took her place in the command chair. Her XO, Commander Michael Torres, responded promptly. Main reactor at 95% and climbing. Weapon systems online. Railguns charge. Missile tubes loaded with Mark VII kinetic penetrators. Point defense grid responding. Hull integrity at 100%. What about the crew? Michael's expression was mixed. The veterans are adapting quickly, muscle memory kicking in. The younger ones are struggling with the manual systems, but they're learning fast. These ships, they're different from the simulators. Diana nodded. They were built in an era when we couldn't rely on quantum shields or faster-than-light communications. Everything had to work, had to last, had to be repairable with basic tools and raw materials. A young lieutenant spoke up from the tactical station. Captain, I don't understand. How are we supposed to fight with these outdated weapons? The enemy fleet has already proven it can bypass our most advanced shields. Diana stood, walking to the tactical station. Look at your screen, Lieutenant. What do you see? Radar returns, infrared signatures, magnetic anomaly readings. Exactly. No quantum entanglement sensors, no tachyon detection grid, just basic physics. The enemy's stealth systems are designed to fool advanced technology, but you can't hide from thermodynamics. Every ship generates heat, creates magnetic disturbances, displaces space around it. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. Our weapons might seem primitive, railguns firing hypervelocity projectiles, nuclear-tipped missiles designed to penetrate hull armor. But they don't rely on shield frequencies or energy patterns. They just deliver raw kinetic energy. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. The ship shuddered as the massive engines came fully online. Outside, through the armored viewport, other vessels of the Ghost Fleet were powering up. Their hulls scared but proud, their weapons simple but deadly. Captain, the communications officer called out. Message from Admiral Reyes. The enemy fleet has changed course. They're heading directly for our position. They've detected our power signatures. Diana's lips curved into a grim smile. Good. Let them come. Send word to all ships. Combat formations Delta 7. We'll show them why these ships were considered too dangerous to keep in service. As the crew rushed to their stations, Diana felt the familiar vibration of the nuclear pulse drive spooling up. These ships might be relics, but they were humanity's relics, built in an age when we couldn't rely on alien technology or advanced physics. They were a reminder of a time when humanity had to solve problems with ingenuity and determination rather than imported technology. All hands, battle stations, she announced, her voice carrying throughout the massive vessel. This is what we trained for. This is why we maintained these ships when everyone else forgot about them. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity doesn't need advanced technology to be dangerous. The Thunderchild's engines roared to life, accompanied by dozens of other vessels across the solar system. They were ugly, brutal ships, built for a war that never came. But now, decades later, they would finally fulfill their purpose. The Ghost Fleet was ready for battle, and the enemy was about to learn why some weapons never truly become obsolete. The void between Mars and Earth erupted with light as the Ghost Fleet engaged the alien armada. Captain Diana Chen watched from the Thunderchild's bridge as the enemy's advance guard approached, their ships gleaming with energy fields and exotic materials that seemed to bend light itself. Multiple contacts, bearing 035, called out Lieutenant Rodriguez from Tactical. Enemy vessels launching what appear to be energy-based projectiles. Hold position. Diana ordered, her voice steady. Let them get closer. Remember your training. These ships were built to take punishment. The first salvos from the alien fleet lit up space around them. sophisticated energy weapons designed to overload shields and disrupt quantum field generators. But the Thunderchild and her sister ships had no such weaknesses. The energy weapons splashed harmlessly against thick armor plate, leaving only scorched metal in their wake. Minimal damage to outer hull, engineering reported. These energy weapons aren't designed to penetrate physical armor. They're expecting shields. Diana allowed herself a small smile. Just as we thought. All ships, execute Battle Plan Sigma. Show them what real weapons can do. The Ghost Fleet responded as one. Massive rail guns, their magnetic accelerators powered by nuclear reactors, swung into position. These weren't elegant weapons. They were brutal machines designed to hurl projectiles at appreciable fractions of light speed. All guns fire at will. The space between the fleets filled with streaks of light as hundreds of hypervelocity rounds were launched. The alien ships attempted to adjust their shields, expecting energy weapons. Instead, they faced simple physics. Mass times velocity equals unstoppable force. The first hits were devastating. Alien shields, calibrated for energy dissipation, proved useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were torn apart by kinetic impacts that no amount of advanced technology could fully deflect. Direct hits confirmed on multiple targets, Rodriguez reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. Their shields are ineffective against kinetic weapons. But the alien fleet was far from defeated. They began to adapt, changing formations and launching fighters. Their technology was still far advanced, and they outnumbered the human fleet significantly. Enemy fighters approaching, Tactical announced. They're moving too fast for main gun tracking. Point defense grid, free engagement, Diana ordered. Show them another old trick. The Thunderchild's close-in weapon systems came alive. Simple rotary cannons spewing clouds of metal fragments into space. No sophisticated targeting required, just filling space with so much debris that nothing could pass through unscathed. Alien fighters, relying on advanced maneuverability and energy shields, flew straight into walls of shrapnel. Multiple fighter kills confirmed, Rodriguez reported. They're not expecting this kind of defense. Their shields are optimized for energy weapons, not physical impacts. The battle continued to evolve as both sides adjusted their tactics. The alien fleet, realizing their energy weapons were less effective than expected, began attempting to close distance for boarding actions. Enemy cruiser on intercept course. Commander Torres warned. They're trying to get within boarding range. Diana's expression hardened. Perfect. Initiate maneuver Delta 6. Let's show them why these ships have such thick hulls. The Thunderchild's massive engines flared to life as the dreadnought turned to face the approaching cruiser directly. In an age of energy weapons and shield technology, ramming had become obsolete. But these ships were built differently. Their hulls designed to withstand nuclear explosions at point-blank range. All hands, brace for impact. The collision was catastrophic. The alien cruiser, despite its advanced technology, stood no chance against thousands of tons of accelerating armor plate. The Thunderchild's reinforced prow crumpled the enemy vessel like paper, its own hull barely scratched by the impact. Target eliminated. Tactical reported, professional calm masking obvious satisfaction. Minor damage to forward armor plates, all systems functioning normally. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as humanity's Ghost Fleet demonstrated why they had been considered too dangerous to keep in service. These weren't ships that relied on complex technology or advanced physics. They were simple machines designed to survive and deal damage through brute force and sound engineering. Admiral Rise is signaling. Communications announced. The enemy fleet is falling back. They're retreating to regroup. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Diana raised her hand for silence. They'll be back, and they'll be better prepared. But now, they know what they're dealing with. Send word to all ships. Begin damage assessment and reload all weapons. We've won the first round, but this war is far from over. As the Ghost Fleet regrouped, Diana looked out at the debris field that had once been part of the alien armada. These old ships, these relics of a more practical age, had just proven their worth. Humanity had been forced to give them up because they were too dangerous, too unpredictable by galactic standards. Now those same qualities might just save the human race. News of the Ghost Fleet's victory spread through human space like wildfire. Deep in hidden bunkers and forgotten asteroid bases, more ancient warships were being awakened from their decades-long slumber. Admiral Rice stood in Earth Command's strategic center, watching as green icons multiplied across the tactical display. Report from the Jupiter shipyards, Colonel Martinez announced. They've reactivated the TNS Vengeance and her battle group. 5 more dreadnoughts ready for action within 24 hours. Rice nodded, studying the disposition of forces. The initial success had proven their strategy sound, but the real test was yet to come. What's the status of the alien fleet? They've fallen back to the Kuiper Belt. Long-range sensors show they're regrouping, probably adapting their tactics based on what they learned from the first engagement. As expected, Rice mused. They're used to warfare being the sophisticated dance of energy weapons and shield harmonics. We just introduced them to the space combat equivalent of a bar brawl. The tactical display updated, showing new sensor data from their deep space probes. The alien fleet was indeed regrouping, but they were also being reinforced. More ships were arriving through FTL, drawn by the news that their supposedly easy conquest had hit an unexpected snag. Message from the Galactic Assembly, a communications officer called out. They're requesting an explanation for our unauthorized military assets. A grim smile crossed Rice's face. Send them the battle footage. Let them see exactly what their mandated fleet standardization almost cost us. Across the solar system, the revival of humanity's old war machine continued. In the asteroid belt, mining ships that had been converted into hidden maintenance facilities decades ago now revealed their true purpose. Veterans who had been officially listed as civilian consultants emerged to take command of ships they had secretly kept ready for exactly this moment. On the bridge of the TNS Thunderchild, Captain Chen received new orders. Her ship, having proven the concept in the first engagement, would lead a battle group to protect the outer colonies. The aliens had to be shown that humanity could do more than just defend its home system. Signal from Earth Command, her communications officer reported. We're being assigned 5 more ships from the Ghost Fleet. The TNS Relentless, Defiant, Indomitable, Fury, and Vengeance will form Battle Group Thor under your command. Diana studied the tactical data on her ships. Each one was a veteran of the same era as Thunderchild, built when humanity still believed they might have to fight their way to the stars alone. Their designs emphasized durability over sophistication, redundancy over efficiency. Status of the new crews, she asked, knowing that manning these additional ships would strain their already limited pool of experienced personnel. Commander Torres consulted his datapad. Mixed. We're getting a lot of volunteers from the regular fleet now, young officers who saw what these ships can do. The veterans are spread thin, but they're training the newcomers quickly. They'll have to learn fast, Diana noted. The aliens won't make the same mistakes twice. Across human space, a transformation was taking place. The sleek, standardized ships of the modern fleet were being pulled back for defensive duties, while the resurrection of humanity's obsolete warships continued. Each vessel that awoke from its long slumber represented a different philosophy of space combat, one based on overwhelming force and durability rather than technical sophistication. In orbit around Saturn, the TNS Relentless emerged from its hidden dock, ice crystals falling from its thick armor plates like diamond rain. Its captain, a veteran who had spent the last 15 years supposedly running a museum ship, gave the order to bring its massive engines online. Engineering reports all systems functional, his XO reported. These old girls were built to last. That they were, The captain agreed. And now they'll remind the galaxy why. Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes received word that the alien fleet was beginning to move again. This time, they were spreading out, clearly hoping to avoid presenting the dense targets that had proven so vulnerable to the Ghost Fleet's kinetic weapons. "They're learning," she observed. "But so are we. Signal all Ghost Fleet vessels. Execute Operation Hammerfall. It's time to take the fight to them." As her orders spread across space, humanity's reborn warships began to move. They were ugly by modern standards, lacking the elegant lines and energy fields of contemporary vessels. But they were tough, simple, and above all, effective. In the Kuiper Belt, alien sensors detected the approaching human fleet. Their commanders, still struggling to adapt to this primitive yet devastating form of warfare, prepared their sophisticated countermeasures and shield harmonics. But humanity's Ghost Fleet had more surprises in store. These ships hadn't just been preserved, they had been improved. Decades of secret maintenance and upgrades had created weapons that combined modern knowledge with old-school engineering. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the old ways weren't just effective, they were devastating. The final battle began not with an explosion, but with silence. Humanity's Ghost Fleet approached the alien armada under total emissions control, their nuclear engines cold, their systems dormant. Only their thick armor plates, absorbing every form of radiation, betrayed their presence against the starfield. Admiral Reyes watched from her command center as the tactical display showed both fleets converging. The aliens had adapted their tactics, spreading their forces thin to avoid presenting concentrated targets. But in doing so, they had played directly into humanity's hands. "All ships, execute Operation Hammerfall," she commanded. "Show them what these old ships can really do." Across the battlefield, humanity's dormant fleet suddenly erupted into action. The aliens had prepared for the rail guns and kinetic weapons they'd faced before. What they weren't prepared for was the sight of hundreds of primitive warships deliberately overloading their nuclear pulse drives. Captain Diana Chen stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild, watching as radiation warnings flashed across her tactical display. "All hands, initiate radiation protocols. Engineering, push those reactors to maximum." The Ghost Fleet had been built in an era when radiation shielding was a necessity, not an afterthought. Their crews were protected not by energy fields, but by meters of physical shielding. As the ship's reactors redlined, they began to emit electromagnetic pulses that would have crippled more sophisticated vessels. The alien fleet's advanced systems began to fail. Quantum computers crashed, shield harmonics fluctuated, and targeting systems went dark. Their technology, so advanced it was nearly magical, proved vulnerable to the most basic forces of physics. "The enemy fleet is in disarray," Rodriguez reported from Tactical. "Their primary systems are failing. Their ships are running blind." Diana's voice was steady as she gave the order. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Show them why sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." The Ghost Fleet struck like hammers falling on anvils. Rail guns spat hypervelocity rounds while missile tubes emptied their loads of kinetic penetrators. There was nothing elegant about the assault. It was brutal, efficient, and overwhelming. Alien ships, their sophisticated defenses scrambled by the EMP assault, were torn apart by simple projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Their armor, designed to deflect energy weapons, proved useless against solid shots that transferred their kinetic energy directly into the target. On Earth, Admiral Reyes watched as the battle unfolded. Status report: "Enemy fleet is in full retreat," Martins reported, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "Their remaining ships are attempting to reach FTL jump points, but our forces are maintaining electromagnetic interference. They can't calculate safe jump trajectories." "Signal from the Galactic Assembly," a communications officer announced. "They're demanding we cease hostilities immediately." Reyes allowed herself a grim smile. "Send them the same response we've been giving. We'll stand down when the alien fleet surrenders or withdraws completely from human space. Back in the battle, the Thunderchild led a charge against the enemy's flagship. The alien vessel was massive, bristling with weapon ports and sophisticated technology. But against the combined assault of humanity's obsolete warships, it stood little chance. "Target their engineering section," Diana ordered. "Let's show them what these old railguns can do when we really push them." The Thunderchild's main guns spoke as one, sending shells that had been deliberately engineered to fragment on impact. The alien flagship's hull, already weakened by the electromagnetic assault, split open like a ripe fruit. "Enemy flagship is breaking up," Rodriguez reported. "The rest of their fleet is beginning emergency FTL jumps. They're withdrawing." A cheer went up across the bridge, but Diana maintained her focus. "Maintain battle stations. This isn't over until they're completely out of our space." Hours later, as the Ghost Fleet secured the battlefield, Admiral Reyes received the news she'd been waiting for. The alien fleet had withdrawn completely from human territory. More importantly, the Galactic Assembly had formally recognized humanity's right to maintain its traditional defense forces. "They're afraid of us now," Martinez observed. "No," Rice corrected. "They respect us now. We've shown them that advanced technology isn't everything. Sometimes the old ways, the simple ways, are the most effective." In the aftermath of the battle, humanity's Ghost Fleet took up defensive positions throughout human space. The ships that had been hidden away, maintained in secret for decades, now patrolled openly. They were a reminder to the galaxy that humanity had not forgotten its roots, had not completely abandoned its own way of doing things in favor of standardized galactic technology. Captain Chen stood at the viewport of the Thunderchild, watching as repair crews worked to patch the battle damage. These ships would need maintenance, would need care and attention that their more sophisticated counterparts didn't require, but they had proven their worth. "Message from Admiral Reyes," her communications officer reported. "The Ghost Fleet is being formally reactivated. We're to begin training new crews immediately." Diana nodded, a smile touching her lips. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the old ways weren't just quaint traditions to be preserved. Sometimes they were the foundation upon which survival itself rested. Humanity's Ghost Fleet had risen from obscurity to save their species, proving that there was still a place for simple, reliable engineering in an age of advanced technology. The galaxy would never again mistake humanity's pragmatism for primitiveness. After all, the simplest solutions were often the most effective.